the physical copies that you're making, are you doing different? You said you're doing like different versions of them and stuff, but are you doing also different languages as well, or are you just sticking to what language that was made in?
Yeah, so whatever the developer has, we're essentially taking, their digital game and putting it on the cartridge. So if they have multiple languages, it'll be included. For us, our releases are through Nintendo of America, so they have the ESRB, but we do ship internationally. So we partnered with a few stores outside the US to help with shipping, because through us directly, we realized like on day one, the shipping was just ridiculous if you lived outside of the US. I mean, we saw people paying anywhere from $15 to $30 for shipping, and we realized nobody's going to want to buy our games if they have to pay as much in shipping almost as the game. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but Video Games Plus in Canada, we partnered with them very early on, and they handle Canadian exclusively, or sorry, they handle Canada exclusively, and they were handling UK and Europe and anywhere else. And then just this past week, we announced a partnership with a UK company called Bazaar, and they're going to be carrying our titles there. That should help with shipping in Europe and the UK. So, we're hoping to make sure that anybody who wants our game can get it for a very affordable price, and that shipping should never be a factor for them. But in terms of like the languages, it really is whatever was just available through the digital version.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's saying something, because I mean, having to be able to reach out outside of the US and be able to ship it across, that's
Oh yeah.
well,
Yeah, we I think without those partnerships, trouble with international customers, because we would get a lot of feedback where they want to support us, but they couldn't justify the price, which I don't blame them. I import a lot too, so I understand how much it can be to bring games into the US. So we're very fortunate that these partnerships worked out the way they did, and that shipping is essentially the same price. Like if we're shipping to somebody in the US, these companies are able to ship to anywhere else for around the same cost. So yeah, we're very happy about that.
you have a great base for connecting to as many people as you can with these games. I mean, developers are really getting into it. You're seeing a lot of public, come back with it and stuff. Do you see anything in the future that you're going to try to do? Either more challenges or something similar to that?
Yeah, one thing that Jeff and I talked about is branching into other platforms. So, you have Sony, Xbox, and that's areas that we're open to. It's not something that we're working on right now. Right now, we're really taking it slow just because both of us work full time. So, Premium Edition is happening in between like lunches, evenings, early mornings, pretty much all of our free time where it's not taken up by our job or family. So, for us, like the Switch is really what we can handle right now. But eventually, like we'd love to see if we could get onto PS5, Xbox One as well. So we're thinking of that. Another option that we've talked about is that enhancing existing games. So maybe a game that came out that only had a regular bare bone release, maybe we have the option to work with that publisher who worked on it at the time, or the developer, make manuals, make a collector edition for it, add some additional goodies, for people who enjoyed that game so much that they want a little bit more. So it's not necessarily taking a brand new game, but kind of just enhancing an existing one. And that's something that we've toyed around with for a bit. And that's really just discussion phases right now. And then, of course, I mentioned the Switch Collector book. So that's something that Jeffrey's still actively working on. We had our Kickstarter back in November for Volume 2, which covers the first half of Year 2, because that's just how many games came out. So he's writing that right now. It should be done hopefully in the next few months. And then in between Premium, we got to start working on Volume 3 and Volume 4. So that definitely takes up a lot of time. But yeah, those are like our immediate goals. And then hopefully in 5 years, we're doing this full time, which is one of my dreams, is that I can leave my current role, current job, and really just be a full-time physical publisher, because I think that would just be amazing. And, hopefully be able to publish more games more frequently and work with more developers. But right now it's just very slow and just doing this the right way without rushing.
So you have all these different type of collectors editions on these as well, or is it just going to be just the physical versions first and then maybe collector's editions down the line? Or
so what we want to do is, with all of our releases, we want to have the premium, which is what I showed you, with the slipcover, the sleeve, manual, trading card, the nice artwork inside. And then we always want to have a retro edition as well. So the retro, The box itself is going to be pretty much the same size as an SNES N64 size box, but we'll orient it differently depending if we're going to do like an homage to NES or like the Sega Genesis, and then we'll flip it if we're going to do SNES N64 style, so we have that flexibility. And then inside it'll vary, like I mentioned for Pigeon Dev, we'll have a steelbook inside this one. In the future, we're talking about possibly adding in cards or a CD or other items that go along with that release. And then really one game a quarter at most will have a deluxe edition, and that's the one that's going to get the big slipcover that's going to hold the Neo Geo style case. Inside the case will be the retro edition. It'll be a CD, an enamel pin, and then next to it will be like the 200 plus premium guide that we'll do. And that because the guide takes so much time to write and edit and manufacture, we only want to do that just a few times a year. So that deluxe will be really reserved for games that we feel would just benefit from having a guide, because maybe it's just a big game that we're working on, or just there's a lot to it that we want to share. But the premium and retro you'll see pretty much with all of our releases, though.
Nice, that's really cool. I mean,
yeah, I think we're excited. The Steelbooks, we got the notification that they're going to be shipping this week. So we started this last year working with the Steelbook company, coming up with the design, seeing the metal proofing, and now it's like, okay, in a few days it's going to be shipping to you. And just depending on how long transit is, we really could be shipping the retro editions out, I would say mid-April to beginning of May. And it's just going to be crazy because now we're going to have our second version of the game actually in hand, and people finally get to see the packaging. And we just feel so excited for the Steelbook, because it's really the first landscape one that's going to have like the retro TV style. You could feel the texture. The inside is crazy because our graphic designer essentially took an old CRT TV, looked at the wiring, and made that the inside when you open up, and then you see character sprites from the 4 games kind of just like inside the TV. And then the back is the back of a TV with like, the AV plug holes and whatnot, and like the little warning on the back of the TV. So it's we think it's going to be a really cool Steelbook, and we can't wait to see the final version. So one thing that's going to be in the deluxe is our enamel pin. So if you can see it, so this is it's the Greedy P from Awesome P1. Inside of a little TV, you could feel the texture, you could feel like the knobs and whatnot, and it's going to be exclusive to our deluxe edition. And on the back of it, so these are unnumbered ones that we have, but when you take it out on the back, it's going to say X out of 1,000, because there's only 1,000 made, so they'll be individually numbered. And I think it came out really cool. Like, I love the packaging. I think I love like the old like style TV. So we're just really excited for this one, and hopefully people will really enjoy it.
I know there's been like a giant just flood of people getting into games within these, this past year and everything. Have you guys seen anything major going on this past year with you guys?
Like us personally, or in the industry?
Industry-wise, whether it's your game sales, or whether you guys are seeing more people getting into indie games now, or...
Yeah, I mean, indie really exploded. I thought early on, even with Nintendo, it seemed very hesitant when the Switch launched about like the indie scene, and then out of nowhere, it kind of just the eShop exploded, and they seem very welcoming, which is something that we hadn't seen previously before. But I also see like a gravitation towards physical gaming. I see a lot of people appreciating it more now, and Scott Pilgrim is one game where we all know it disappeared from I think like the PS3 storefront a long time ago, and then Limited Run brought it back. But you just see all these people really appreciating when you can get a game again, and I think it made people a little bit more aware, maybe that they weren't before, is that like these games can go away and you could lose them if you don't already have them downloaded and whatnot. So to us, that's why like the physical preservation is so important. The other thing I would think about is really COVID. I mean, Animal Crossing, I think has been, I'm not going to say Nintendo had anything to do with it, but the timing of having Animal Crossing come out really was perfect, because it was a time where everyone was stuck inside, and I saw so many people who never had a Switch, probably never would have had a Switch, get one just for this game, and they're able to connect with people. Like my sister-in-law bought a Switch, she got Animal Crossing, and she was able to play with her friends that she couldn't see anymore because we just weren't going out anywhere, we weren't interacting, and it was crazy. Like, it kind of became our escape from what was happening, and still a way to hang out with people. And I definitely see gaming, have such a big influence on that and helping people like during this time. So I'm appreciative of it. It was just a joke about Nintendo. I know they had nothing to do with it, but no, I think Animal Crossing came out exactly when it should have for the most people to really enjoy it and appreciate it. And even with us now, I see a lot of people really going towards gaming. Like that's been a fun way for them to kind of just either keep sane while you're indoors or just a hobby to connect with people about. So yeah, it's the past year has been very insane. I remember going to PAX in February of last year, and like on the second to last day we were there is when the first case hit in Washington. And I remember being in like the apartment and we're all talking about it. And I was with publisher friends, and they were already getting news about like upcoming events getting postponed and potentially canceled. And PAX ended, we come home, and like a week after that is when everybody stayed home, for the next year. So it's just crazy to think like we were at an actual convention and we haven't had one really since then. Like that was one of the last ones. And you go into it not thinking about it at all, and then by the time you left, you're like, okay, this COVID thing is sounding a little more serious, but still not too bad. And then all of a sudden everything just stopped. And yeah, it definitely changed that landscape for sure. I mean, the convention scene is it moved to digital for some of them, but there's still nothing like going to an actual one, walking around, talking to people, having a booth, things like that. And hopefully we'll get back to that. PAX was the first one for me. I've done the Midwest Gaming Classic, and actually did it with Jeff because we did a panel for the book at the time. And then he also had a table for for his published books. And then I'm in New Jersey, so we have like a video game con in New Jersey that's right by us. So I'd go to that. But yeah, thinking now, it's like for us, we can't wait to go to conventions because he's a convention expert. He's been going to them for years. But now, aside from his book publishing company, now we have Premium Edition Games as another booth, and I think it's going to be fun to talk with people there and share our games and our love for them.
Thank you, gamers, for joining us for this conversation. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe so you can see more of this interview and others like it. Have a good one, you guys.